He said he couldn't come with me that weekend. Work, of course. Always work. The Henderson project's on fire, he told me, rubbing his temples like the stress was physically draining him. If I don't fix it by Monday, we'll lose the client. And I believed him. I wasn't mad. Honestly, I felt bad for him. I even offered to cancel my trip and stay with him, maybe cook something, maybe just be around. He smiled and said, No, go. You haven't seen your sister in months. Just send me pictures of Olivia eating ice cream or yelling at the cat. So I went. Packed a small bag, kissed him on the cheek, told him I loved him. He said it back. Twice. That was weird, actually. But I brushed it off. I thought maybe he just needed reassurance. The drive to Springfield was 3 hours. My sister met me at the door with a glass of wine and a half-eaten muffin, Olivia already shouting my name from the living room. It felt like the kind of weekend I'd needed for months, chill, chatty, full of laundry room gossip and trashy reality shows. But here's the thing. You know when your body knows something before your brain catches up? Saturday night, around 11, I was scrolling through my texts before bed. There was one from James, just a quick love you. Night. And I swear, something about it felt off. Not what he said, but how it felt. Like someone wearing his skin, trying to sound like him. I even laughed at myself. I thought, God, Rachel, chill. You're turning into one of those paranoid wives who smells perfume in their dreams. But then Sunday came. And I got home. And that's when things shifted. Our bed looked just a little too smooth. Like it had been made, but not by him. He never makes the bed, not unless I nag. And even then it's a half-hearted fluff and tuck. But this? Hospital corners. Perfect pillows. Like a showroom. I opened the hamper to throw in my clothes and there was a set of sheets in the bottom. I hadn't changed them before I left. I remember because I told myself, do it when you come back. You'll have more time. So why were the sheets changed? I stood there for a second, holding my jeans in one hand, and just stared into the hamper like it was a portal to another dimension. Like maybe the answer would jump out and slap me across the face. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even tell myself I was overreacting. I just felt hollow. You ever get that kind of silence inside your chest? Not panic. Not rage. Just this drop in temperature, like someone turned off the lights inside your ribs. I put the laundry in and closed the lid. Then I walked into the kitchen and started the kettle because what else do you do when your world quietly shifts off its axis? Make tea. Obviously. He came home around 6 that evening with Thai takeout and a smile like nothing in the world had ever gone wrong. I kissed him on the cheek. And I smiled back. Because I didn't know what had happened yet. But something had. And I was going to find it. You know how they say your gut never lies? Yeah. Mine was screaming. Not yelling. Not panicking. Just whispering in this cold, low voice, something is off. I didn't want to believe it. I mean, we'd been married 6 years. James had never given me a real reason to doubt him. He worked late sometimes, sure. Traveled for conferences. Was glued to his phone more than I liked. But cheating? That wasn't him. He was stable. Predictable. Boring even. And boring husbands don't cheat. Right? But that Sunday night when I walked into our bathroom to wash my face, I paused. The soap was wrong. Not missing. Not moved. Just different. We always use that eucalyptus bar I get from the co-op. It's herbal. Fresh. He complains it smells like a spot in a forest, but he uses it anyway. This one? Strong, sweet, and fake. Vanilla. And not the cozy cookie kind. The nightclub body spray kind. I stood there holding the bar like it was a foreign object, trying to justify it. Maybe he ran out and grabbed a different one? I said out loud. But we had 3 backups in the drawer. I checked. My heart started tapping a little harder. Not pounding. Just tapping. Like it wanted to get my attention, but not freak me out. I moved on. Brushed my teeth. Wiped the mirror. Took a breath. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe the stress of work, life, everything had finally melted my brain. But then I opened the medicine cabinet. My stuff had been moved. My moisturizer was behind his shaving cream. That never happens. It's always front and center. He doesn't touch it, he calls it, that expensive goo. I didn't sleep well that night. Every creak of the house felt louder. Every glance from him across the dinner table made me flinch just a little. And he was just normal. Too normal. He cracked jokes. Asked about my sister. Gave me updates on that Henderson project like it was still a disaster he barely escaped. He even offered to do the dishes, which I should have appreciated, but it made my skin crawl. Because James never does dishes voluntarily. And James never talks that much after 9 p.m. And James never smells like women's perfume. Yeah, that was the other thing. He hugged me that night. And there was something sweet on him, faint but definitely not me. Like he'd brushed up against someone at a perfume counter and didn't wash it off. But I know that scent. Not the exact brand. Just the vibe. Sugary, loud, desperate. It stuck in my nose all night like a warning. The next morning I checked the trash in the bathroom. Nothing unusual. Checked the laundry. Just the replaced sheets already washed and dry. But here's what hit me like a freight train. He'd done laundry on a weekend. James hates laundry. He will let socks dye before he touches a washer. Why wash sheets? When I was only gone 2 days. He came downstairs, yawning like he was the one who'd been lying awake all night. "Morning," he said, pouring coffee. "You sleep okay?" I nodded. Like a rock. And that was a lie. Because I hadn't slept. I had stared at the ceiling, replaying everything. His voice, the soap, the perfume, the damn fitted sheet corners, and I knew. Not the details. Not the who or how or when. But I knew the what. Something had happened in that house while I was gone. And he wasn't going to tell me. So I smiled. I packed my work bag. And I walked out the door like everything was fine. But inside, I was already building the case. Piece by piece. Because if there's one thing I've learned in life, it's this. If you want the truth, don't ask for it. Dig for it. It started with a single hair. Long blonde. Curled at the end like it had come out of a curling iron an hour before it landed where I found it, on my pillow. And let me be clear. I'm a brunette. Dark straight hair. Always have been. James? Dark brown. A little gray lately, but not a single strand of blonde in sight. I stood over the bed just staring at it, like it might dissolve if I blinked. You ever have a moment where your body goes completely still, but your brain is sprinting through every possible explanation? That's what happened. Maybe it's from work, I thought. Maybe someone hugged him. Maybe it's on his clothes. Maybe. And then I caught myself. Why was I working so hard to defend something he hadn't even denied? Why was I standing in my own bedroom, justifying another woman's hair on my pillow? I didn't touch it. I didn't throw it away. I left it there. Like a clue at a crime scene. Because honestly, that's what it felt like. And once I let that thought in, something happened here. It was like opening a floodgate. My brain, my gut, my instincts, they all screamed in unison. Pay attention. So I did. I started with the basics, his texts, his call log. Nothing strange. No unknown numbers, no late night calls. But then I checked the cloud. He never logs out of anything. Ever. And what do you know? James had been texting someone named M. Just that. The letter M. No full name. No photo. Just an initial. The messages weren't outright sexual. That would have been too easy. No, I miss you, or last night was amazing. But there was a tone. Too flirty. Too familiar. Way too comfortable for just a coworker. And then I hit the jackpot. A calendar invite. Dinner 7 p.m. home. Sent to him 2 hours after I left for my sister's. The address? Our address. I sat there staring at the screen like it might glitch and show me something different. It didn't. She came here. To my house. To my bed. While I was hugging my niece and sipping wine with my sister, James was planning a romantic evening in the place we built together. And suddenly that hair on my pillow felt like a slap. I dug deeper. Email. Socials. I don't know what took over me, but I became a machine. I wasn't crying. I wasn't shaking. I was methodical. I searched for patterns, overlaps, any signs of a second life. And then I found her. Her name wasn't M. It was Melissa. And she wasn't some random. She was an old colleague from his previous job. The one he always swore was just a friend. Even when she liked every single one of his photos from 2017 like she was catching up on missed years. They'd reconnected months ago. First a message on LinkedIn. Then coffee. Then a dinner. At home. With changed sheets and fake soap. I sat back in my chair and exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for a year. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't crazy. He had done it. And worse? He had done it so casually, so quietly, like I wouldn't notice, like I didn't matter enough to notice. That's what hurt most. Not the sex, not even the lies, but the ease. How easy it was for him to let someone else into our life while I was gone for 48 hours. And the thing is, I still hadn't confronted him. He had no idea I knew. But he was about to. Because once I stopped asking, did he cheat, and started asking, what else is he hiding? It was game on. Her name wasn't Melissa. That's the first lie I caught in my own head. I assumed M stood for Melissa. But when I looked closer at the calendar entry, linked through his old email, I noticed a tiny detail. The invite had been forwarded to Lauren.m at something. Lauren. My stomach dropped so fast it felt like someone had cut the floor out from under me. Because I knew her. Not well, not intimately. But enough. We'd had coffee once or twice. She was the kind of woman who made you feel like you were lucky she showed up. Big sunglasses, flawless blowout, and that tone, like every story she told was just so dramatic. I met her through James. She worked in his office 2 years ago. We even double-dated once, back when she was with some guy named Chad who managed a wine bar and always wore linen shirts. James swore she was harmless. Just Lauren being Lauren, he used to say, with that dismissive little shrug that made me feel silly for even asking. Turns out, just Lauren was in my house. When I realized it was her, I didn't cry. Honestly, I laughed. Not a big, loud laugh. Just one of those dry, disbelieving exhales that sounds more like, of course. Of course it was her. Because it couldn't be a stranger. No, that would have been too clean. Too easy to cut off. It had to be someone I'd welcomed, even briefly, into my life. Someone I'd once told, I love your shoes, while we stood in line at a coffee shop. Someone who had complimented my wedding ring and asked where we went on our honeymoon. Someone who sat on my couch and drank my wine and called me girl like we were in some sitcom. That's who he brought into my bed. I don't know if I felt more angry or more embarrassed. Because the betrayal? That was his. But the humiliation? That was mine. And yet, I wasn't hysterical. I wasn't throwing things or screaming or punching walls. I was calm. Like, disturbingly calm. The kind of calm that only comes when something inside you goes completely quiet. I remember staring at her Instagram that night. It was private, of course. But her profile picture was a mirror selfie. Same hair. Same lips. Same smug tilt of the head. I remembered her perfume. Vanilla. That fake sugary smell I noticed in our bathroom. Suddenly, every little detail clicked into place like a puzzle I hadn't realized I was solving. The changed sheets. The soap. The blonde hair. Lauren. My friend. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I didn't text James. Not yet either. I wanted to be sure. So sure that when I finally made a move, there'd be no room left for gaslighting or excuses or fake apologies. So I did what anyone in my shoes would do. I started a folder. Screenshots. Saved messages. Calendar invites. I even bookmarked her Venmo where she'd sent him a payment labeled, dinner wineglass winking face dot. Subtle. I called in a favor from someone I went to college with, Maya. She works in IT security now and she owed me big from our dorm days. I told her I needed help pulling deleted messages. Nothing illegal. Just educational. She didn't ask questions. Just said, send me what you've got. By the end of the week, I had everything. And I do mean everything. He'd been seeing her for months. Little meetups. Office drinks. One hotel during a conference. But mostly, our house. My house. That's what I couldn't forgive. Not just the sex. Not just the lying. But the audacity to do it where I sleep. I sat in the kitchen that night, staring at my mug like it could give me answers. And I remember thinking, I'm not heartbroken. I'm insulted. And that, more than anything, told me I was already done with him. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even touch him. What I did. I made a plan. You know that switch some people have? The one between wife and woman who's about to burn your whole world down with a smile? Yeah. That flipped. I wasn't his wife anymore. Not in my head. I was the investigator now. And sweetheart, I don't miss details when I go into that mode. First step? Information. I knew his logins. Not because I snooped, but because he used the same 2 passwords for everything since 2012. I once joked he should change them. He said, why? I've got nothing to hide. Oh, the irony. I logged into his cloud. calendar, files, photos. A couple folders were locked, but nothing too secure. I took screenshots. I saved locations. There were photos of restaurant receipts, hotel bookings, and even worse, a voice memo. Him and Lauren, laughing, probably half drunk, making plans for a weekend together. It felt like swallowing acid, but I kept listening. I had to. Next. Browser history. Deleted. Obviously. Which would have been cute if I hadn't known better. That's where Tasha came in. Tasha's an old friend. We met back in college. She's one of those brilliant, slightly scary women who could crack your phone passcode just by watching you unlock it once. Works in cybersecurity now. Thinks privacy is just an illusion lazy people cling to. I called her. Didn't sugarcoat it. She said, "You want to find everything?" I said everything. She said, "Give me 24 hours. I gave her 12. She walked me through recovery tools, cache files, and shadow data. Don't ask me how she knows all this. I just followed directions. And what I found? He wasn't just cheating. He was comfortable cheating. Planning weekends. Sharing playlists. Even helping her pick furniture for her new place. He used incognito mode like it was a superpower. Joke's on him, I had the real one. There were late-night searches for how to make a married woman feel sexy and signs your wife suspects something. Oh, James, you should have Googled how not to get caught. I didn't say a word. At home, I played the part. Cooked dinner. Answered questions. Gave him just enough normal to stay unaware. But every night after he fell asleep, I documented. I backed up everything. Cloud drive. USB stick. Printed screenshots because if there's one thing I know it's that tech can fail, but paper? Paper stays. My heart didn't race anymore. I was past that. There's a quiet rage that comes after the breakdown. It's focused. Dangerous. Beautiful in its own terrible way. I started seeing myself from the outside, this woman sitting in her own kitchen at midnight, sipping peppermint tea and building a digital case file like she was prepping for court. And maybe in a way I was. Because I didn't want revenge. I wanted proof. I wanted to be so undeniable that when I walked away, he'd be left with nothing but silence and shame. And maybe, just maybe, a folder labeled regrets. I was almost ready. 1 or 2 more pieces. Then I'd detonate it all. Quietly. Precisely. Beautifully. I didn't text her right away. I waited until I had enough. Enough evidence, enough control, enough calm. Then I sent the message like it was nothing. Hey Lauren, can we grab coffee sometime? Just us. I'd like to talk. No drama. No punctuation bombs. No hints that I knew. She replied within 10 minutes. Of course. I'd love to catch up. When's good for you? Imagine that. So sweet. So casual. Like she hadn't been sleeping with my husband in my bed while I was out buying birthday presents for my niece. We picked a little cafe downtown. Neutral ground. Public enough to keep things civil. I chose the seat with the wall behind me, no surprises. And before I left the house, I opened my voice recorder, placed my phone in my purse, and slid it halfway open. The mic pointed straight up. Just in case. She walked in right on time wearing sunglasses indoors. That alone almost made me laugh. Who shows up to a coffee date looking like they're avoiding paparazzi? Hey you, she said, all smiles. It's been forever. I hugged her. Yes, I hugged her. Because why not? Let her feel safe. We ordered drinks. She got some overcomplicated iced nonsense. I got black coffee. No sugar. No cream. I was already full of bitterness, thanks. We sat. We talked. She thought this was going to be a casual catch-up. That's the wildest part. She actually believed I didn't know. And I let her. I asked about her job, her new place, what happened with Chad. She talked. And talked. And somewhere around minute 12, she brought up James. I didn't push. Just sipped and nodded. Then she said it. Honestly. I probably shouldn't say this, but I always felt like you two were more roommates than partners. I mean, no offense. You're great, obviously. But you know James, he needs a spark. I didn't blink. Just smiled. A spark? She shrugged, like she wasn't inching toward a confession. You know what I mean. Someone who gets him. Who pushes him. You mean like you? Silence. She froze for half a second. It was subtle, but I saw it. Then, what are you talking about? I leaned in just slightly. Lauren. I know. She tried to laugh. Know what? I know everything. The dinner. The texts. The weekends. The voice memos. The hotel. I even know what kind of soap you use. That hit her. I saw it. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I sat back. Calm. Measured. My voice never rose. Here's what I want. I want you to tell me the truth. Not because I need it, but because you do. For once. You owe me that much. And she did. 40 minutes. She talked. Defended herself. Made excuses. At one point she even cried. I didn't comfort her. I just listened. And the phone kept recording. Every word. Every lie. Every awkward truth she didn't mean to admit. I learned everything. How it started. How often. How long. I even found out it wasn't just Lauren. There had been one more. Briefly. She didn't know her name, just that he'd been weird for a few weeks and probably tried something stupid. I thanked her for the honesty. Paid the bill. And left. No scene. No tears. Just facts. And a voice memo. One that would come in very handy later. When I got to my car, I sat behind the wheel for a few minutes and just breathed. You know that feeling when you realize you're not crazy? When everything you felt deep in your bones is confirmed out loud. It's not relief. It's not even satisfaction. It's clarity. And that's the moment I stopped being the wife. And became something else entirely. His office was colder than I expected. Not emotionally, physically. Air conditioning turned up just enough to keep people uncomfortable. Maybe that's the strategy. Freeze them into compliance. I was early. I always am. Sat down in the waiting room with my folder pressed against my chest like it was something sacred. And maybe in a way it was. That folder held everything. Screenshots. Voice memos. Calendar events. Venmo receipts. Even a photo of the blonde hair I never touched but never forgot. It wasn't a folder. It was the death certificate of our marriage. The assistant called my name. I stood up, straightened my jacket, and walked in like I wasn't shaking inside. He looked like a man who'd seen it all. Mid-50s, sharp suit, tired eyes. The kind of person who probably hears infidelity 3 times before lunch. And yet, when I started to talk, he leaned in like it was the only story he'd heard all day. I laid the folder down on the table and said, I want this done clean. He nodded. Start from the beginning. So I did. Not the whole romantic history. Not the love story. That part was dead. I started where it mattered. The weekend I left, the changed sheets, the hair, the discovery, the coffee with Lauren. I talked for 20 minutes straight. Didn't pause. Didn't cry. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he tapped the folder gently, opened it, flipped through 3 pages, and looked up at me. You've done everything right. I just nodded. No smile. No sigh of relief. Because this wasn't victory. It was logistics. We talked options. State laws. Property. Financial accounts. Prenup clauses. Spousal support. He wouldn't get a dime. That made me feel, not happy but satisfied. We mapped it all out. How to serve him. How to make sure the assets were protected. How to keep the house until I decided what to do with it. And you know what? It felt like planning an event. Like ordering catering and setting up chairs, except instead of a party, it was the end of my marriage. He asked if I wanted to confront James first. I said no. I said I wanted the papers to speak for me. Because when someone betrays you with that much effort, when they invite someone else into your home, your life, your bed, they don't deserve a warning. They deserve the echo of a slammed door and legal silence. As I was getting ready to leave, the lawyer looked at me and said something I didn't expect. You know, he said, most people walk in here a wreck. You're the calmest client I've seen in weeks. I looked him right in the eyes and said, because I already lived through the worst part. This is just cleanup. He smiled. Not warmly. Just professionally. Like someone who understands that closure is never sweet. Just necessary. I thanked him, walked out, and didn't look back. I didn't even feel heavy. It was like setting down a suitcase I didn't realize I'd been carrying for years. Outside, the sun was blinding. Life was still happening. People were still crossing streets, holding iced coffees, yelling into their phones. And me? I was quietly walking toward freedom, one signed document at a time. He didn't see it coming. I guess I should have felt bad about that. But I didn't. The divorce papers were delivered to his office on a Tuesday afternoon. No preamble. No dramatic text. Just an envelope on his desk with my signature already on it. I got the first call at 2:11 p.m. I didn't answer. Second call 2:13. Third 2:20. Then a text. Can we talk? Please. By 5 p.m., he was standing in our kitchen like a man who just walked off a cliff. His tie was crooked. Eyes red. Face pale. He looked like someone who had finally realized the house was on fire and he was holding the match. I got the papers, he said. I nodded. Yeah. Silence. He stared at me like maybe this was a test. Like if he said the right combination of words, he could unlock the old version of me. But she was gone. Rachel, can we talk? I didn't move. Talk. He started pacing, hands in his hair. That performative desperation men pull out when they realize they've been outplayed. It was a mistake, he said, and my brain actually laughed. Out of all the words in the English language, that's what he opened with? He kept going. I didn't mean for it to happen. I was drunk. It was stupid. It didn't mean anything. I tilted my head. You invited her into our house. That was the worst part, I know. I don't even recognize the person I was. I did. He was the man who stood in our bedroom, looked at a woman who wasn't me and thought, yeah, this is worth the risk. He talked for another 5 minutes. Maybe 10. I didn't interrupt. I just watched. And do you want to know the weirdest thing? I felt nothing. Not rage. Not heartbreak. Not even disgust. Just silence. Like he was shouting at me from across a canyon and all I could hear was the wind. When he finished, he said, please just tell me what to do to fix this. And that was it. The moment I knew there was no fixing anything. Because it wasn't broken. It was gone. I looked at him and said, you didn't break a rule, James. You broke me. And I put myself back together without you. He started crying. I didn't. He reached out. I stepped back. You don't get to rewrite this, I said. You don't get to reframe what happened into some tragic accident. He shook his head. I was lonely. You were bored. He opened his mouth again, but I held up my hand. Don't. Because I didn't need his apology. I didn't need his reasons. All I needed was the door. I left him standing there. In the kitchen where I used to cook dinner. In the house where we planned our future. In the life he chose to burn for 5 minutes of ego. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt weightless. Because now he knew. And it was too late. He kept trying. Texts. Emails. Voicemails that started with please and ended with I love you. He even sent flowers once. Like a dozen overpriced roses would patch over the fact that he brought another woman into our life like I wouldn't notice the smell she left behind. But you know what's funny? I wasn't angry anymore. I just didn't care. He could have screamed outside my window in the rain, held up a sign like in the movies, poured his soul into a handwritten letter with shaky lines and dramatic metaphors, and I still would have shut the blinds. Because it wasn't hate. It was indifference. And that's the real ending. That's the point where you know you're done. My life moved on quietly. I went to work. Started actually enjoying it again. Met friends for coffee without checking the time. Went for walks just because the weather was nice. I stopped waiting for him to come home. Stopped wondering where he was or who he was texting. You know what took the longest to get used to? Silence. Not the painful kind. Not the lonely kind. The kind that feels like a soft blanket after a storm. No more tension when a phone buzzes. No more guessing games. No more rehearsing hard conversations in my head before he even walked through the door. I started sleeping better. Funny, isn't it? The moment I stopped sharing a bed with him was the first time in months I slept through the night without waking up anxious. I think that's when I realized how much noise he brought into my life. Not literal noise, he wasn't a loud person. But emotional static. That constant low-level hum of uncertainty, of, what mood will he be in today, or what am I missing this time? Gone. Now when I come home, it's peaceful. I light a candle. I cook something simple. I watch shows he used to mock me for liking. And I never, not once, feel the urge to check his location. He still tries sometimes. A random message here. A thought of you today there. And every time I feel the same thing. Nothing. I don't reply. I don't block him. I just don't engage. Because to respond would mean I still care. And I don't. There's no revenge fantasy. No dramatic monologue. No confrontation scene with tears and screams. There's just me quietly living. And him? He's just a man I used to know. Someone whose voice used to echo in my life and now doesn't even make a ripple. That's the closure. Not slamming the door. Not screaming, how could you? Just walking past it all and not feeling a thing. I used to think I needed answers. Now I know all I ever needed was peace. And God, I finally have it. The divorce is done. It's strange how something that once felt like a mountain turns out to be just paperwork and a signature. One day you're a wife. The next you're just you. I moved into a small apartment on the east side. Nothing fancy. Just clean walls, second-hand furniture I picked out myself, and a quiet I didn't know I missed. The first night I slept there, I kept expecting the usual noises, the shift of someone getting into bed late, the clink of ice in a glass, the sigh from across the room. Nothing came. And for the first time, that silence didn't scare me. It felt earned. There's no grand reinvention. No makeover montage. I didn't dye my hair. Didn't sign up for pole dancing or fly to Bali. I got a new set of dishes. That's about as wild as I went. But you know what? Every plate, every fork, every towel in my bathroom, I chose them. It's all mine. And after years of sharing everything, of compromising, of measuring my needs against someone else's moods, that feels like freedom. He still writes sometimes. Not long texts. Just little things. Hope you're okay. Ran into one of your coworkers. She says hi. I miss talking to you. I read them. Then I put my phone down. No reply. Because this isn't about punishment. It's not revenge. It's peace. And peace, real peace, doesn't need to prove anything. I don't replay our fights anymore. I don't wonder what I could have done differently. I don't ask why he did it. I've stopped needing answers to questions that don't change the outcome. I didn't burn the house down. I didn't smash anything. I didn't scream in public or key his car. I just left. I walked out of a life that stopped being mine. And I didn't look back. Now I wake up when I want. I cook what I like. I walk barefoot in the kitchen while drinking coffee out of a chipped mug I found at a thrift store and loved instantly. No one tells me the music's too loud. No one rolls their eyes when I rewatch the same movie for the 5th time. It's not perfect. Some nights are still quiet in a way that feels a little too big. But even that? It's honest. This is my life now. And I built it from the ashes of something that was never as strong as I thought. I didn't get justice. I didn't get apologies that meant anything. I didn't get closure from him. But I got something better. I got myself back. And you know what? That's enough.